Okay, so we should start now. So, so this is a talk about M31 spectra analysis, and in this talk we are going to discuss how are we going to fit a line to a spectra and deduce properties from it. Property of the object in consideration from the spectra. We are going to talk about a basic fit and some basic properties of the object. Why care about spectra? Like the first question comes like why we should even consider spectra. It's the only thing we have in most cases. So it's a pretty good reason to care about spectra. Only thing we have in most cases. So and other reasons are spectra can tell us about type of the object. It can tell us whether the object in consideration a star, a galaxy, or an AGN, or a quasar, or any other astrophysical object. And the contents of the object. It can tell us about what type of metals are present in the object, what all molecules and elements are there present. It can tell us about motion of the object, how is object moving around on our celestial sphere and in the space itself. It can tell us how active is the region around the object. Like, are we having active star formation going on, or are we having any astrophysical jets, or stuff like that. What is the project about? So, spectral data from central region of M31 was analyzed and fitted. Absorption lines were also identified. SciPy suite and AstroPy were used for reduction and analysis of the data. What is M31? Here's a beautiful image showing M31, and in this image we can also see two other galaxies, like here and here. It's a spiral galaxy of type SAB. The last two letters shows that it's a ratio between luminosity of central bulge to the luminosity of disk is quite high. So in this galaxy we can infer that there is quite a large and significant bulge. The central bulge is quite significant in this galaxy. Distance from the Earth is 2.53 million light years and age is around 10.01 billion years. Where is the data from? Location of the data is central region of Andromeda. So here's the image showing the central X-ray close-up of the central region, and we can see that in X-ray the region is quite dim, but in optical it's quite bright. We can see few objects in the X-ray close-up. About the dataset, instrument used was faint object spectroscope, and here's the image showing that. And it was one of the earlier instrument present on Hubble Space Telescope. And wavelength is in optical region from 4500 angstrom to 6800 angstrom. And date of the observation is 22nd Feb 1995. What do we expect galactic spectra to look like? So what our physics tells us, like what we expect our galactic spectra should look like. So here's what we expect it to look like. So these curves are black body radiation from stars, and we know that in galaxy there are millions and billions of stars. So they all add up to produce a relatively flat spectra on the redder side, but we have a significant dip on the bluer side. This is called a 4000 break. Why we expect 4000 break? Lack of hot blue stars because they are short lived. So we know that the hot blue stars are short lived, so their population is going to be less than older redder stars, which are going to have a significantly larger lifespan. So there's a so stars emitting in UV and bluer region are less compared to the stars emitting in redder region. And in metal rich region, higher energy light is absorbed by the metal. So this creates a blanketing effect and thus giving a significant reduction in bluer end. What does the raw data look like? Here's a plot showing the raw data. On the x-axis we have wavelength and on the y-axis we have relative flux. And here's the same plot shown in black and white color gradient, where the darker region corresponds to the dips and the brighter region corresponds to the peaks, and removing the error. So first step when we have experimental data is to remove the error. So here's in blue we have the original spectra, and in red we have error. We can see on the redder end there is a quite a bit much of error as compared to the bluer end. It's because we are having on the redder end we are having infrared radiation coming from our Earth and other nearby sources too. So it's not just our galaxy, it's other background noises too. And we can also see that the error is giving a offset to our data. So it's pushing it up. So if we subtract the error from the data, we will get green spectra. So we can see the offset has been removed. And now here's a no error data, and here's its black and white color gradient. Here's a comparison of the image of the black and white color gradient of the two. We can see on the left hand side there's a quite a bit of lightening up that happened, and on the right hand side too, but we have preserved the dips, as we can see here. Spectrum
Oh,
fitting
is
process.
that
Continuum fit is the first thing which we do. It's done so that we can get how the general trend of the spectra for entire wavelength. So we are ignoring the local details, but we are focusing on what's the general trend of the spectra. How is it overall? Not focusing on the local details. And then we normalize it. So normalization is done by taking the original spectra which we have here and then dividing it by the continuum fit. So it will flatten out our graph and thus giving a normalized spectra. So we have essentially normalized it. So why is it done? Because normalizing is removing the general trend and it's showing the local trends. It means that it's enhancing the local trends in the graph. So identifying and modeling the spectral lines. So identification of absorption lines. Identification was done manually. So I manually selected the regions which showed significant dip as compared to its neighbors. So I got 3 regions shown in black, purple and green. Why was identification done manually? Typical spectral features have these absorption lines and these emission lines. So I have marked the magnesium, iron and sodium because these are the dips which are quite nearby to these wavelengths. So here we can see like in black is pointing out the magnesium region. It's quite near to the 5175 region. We can see that. And the iron is quite near to the 5200 region. And the sodium one is quite near to the 5800. So we can essentially save our computational resources by manually identifying it because pattern recognition in this noisy data is quite difficult for the computers to do, and it would require a really good algorithm to perform. So we can manually identify it because we are only having limited absorption lines. And we can also see that there are no presence of emission lines. So we can ignore that. How was line fitting done? So absorption lines were superimposed on the continuum fit. So I took out those selected regions and slapped it on the continuum fit to get this. We can still see quite a bit of noise is there in the data. So next step is to smoothing the continuum. Like the continuum which we have got after doing the superimposition, now we have to smooth it out. So spectra was passed through 1D median filter to smooth it out. So this is what we have originally, and this is what we have after smoothing. So we can see quite a bit of noise has been removed. We can see the dips clearly. Like we have one here, 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 and few smaller dips too. So comparison of the final continuum with the original spectra. So here's what we have originally, the one without the error, and here is what we have now. So we can see essentially all the noise has been removed, and still we have preserved the dips, as we can see here. And here's a black and white color image showing the same. So we can see almost all the noise is gone, but we have even enhanced the dips. Like we can see here, it's more stronger dip is present as compared to this. So here's a comparison of my analysis with one done by a group of researchers in 2001. My data is within these red lines. So we can see they are also having these 3 dips, and mine is also having 3 dips, but they are also having 2 emission lines. These are due to atmosphere because the data was taken by a ground-based telescope, so we are having atmospheric signatures too, and these atmospheric lines are called telluric lines. So here's one advantage we have if the data is taken from space, that we don't have any atmospheric interference. Spectral lines, 4 absorption lines were found, 3 lines were expected. So here's I have shown which lines were significant and what we have found. So first is corresponding to magnesium, second is unknown, third is iron, and fourth is sodium. Why is the fourth line present? Could be due to fluctuation in the instrument, could be due to process of used for fitting, could be a random error. Deduction from the analysis. Element finding. 3 elements were identified in the region. Magnesium 1 at 5165 angstrom, iron 1 at 5261 angstrom, and sodium 1 at 5881 angstrom. Properties of the region. Old and red stars are present in the region because no emission lines were found. So if there would have been any hot and blue and big stars over there, so we would have some significant emission lines, but those lines are not present. So we can infer that it's mostly older and redder stars with some metals in it. Qualitative overview of spectra suggests that population 2 stars are present in the region. We are having some amount of metal there, so we can infer that it's mostly population 2 stars. No evidence of H alpha was present. This implies that no active star formation is going on in the region. And this makes our first point even stronger because we don't have any H alpha present. So brighter and bluer stars will die quickly and nothing can replenish it. So it's mostly older and redder stars. How can the process be improved? Gaussian modeling. We can model the absorption line as a Gaussian distribution because the broadening of the line is due to thermal Doppler, meaning that thermal jittering of the molecule is producing the line broadening effect. So we have gas clouds and their molecules are moving left and right and in any direction, like it's Brownian motion over there. So one will move towards us, one will move away from us, and thus creating a red shift and blue shift. So this implies that broadening will follow central limit theorem because it's all random motion. So it will follow a central limit theorem. Thus the distribution will be a Gaussian. So we can infer that that distribution is Gaussian because motion is random and it should follow central limit theorem. What can further be done with the results? We can use the concept of thermal Doppler to get the gas temperature and velocity distribution of the region. Redshift can be calculated, which can further be used to get radial velocity of the galaxy. And if the inclination of the galaxy is known, we can get the motion of the galaxy. So with simple trigonometry, we can calculate the exact motion of the galaxy if we know the inclination and the radial velocity, which can be calculated if we know the redshift. Further results coming soon. Thank you for joining in. So if you guys have any questions or want something to discuss about, we can do that now.
Pretty cool, bro.
Thanks, man.
It was pretty interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so want anything to go over again or
And where are these methods used for? Oh, yeah. Where exactly?
Which method?
That you explain the measurement of the movement of galaxies, yeah.
Yeah, this one, like inclination
Yeah,
and all.
and what groups do use these methods?
I mean, it's pretty common for astronomers to use it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whichever group is going to calculate about, like, if someone wants to know how is my target object moving, so we can, if we have some radial velocity known, okay, and we know what is the inclination of galaxy, we can calculate the motion. But where is it used? In research where it is required for us to know how is our object moving, so it can be used there.
Okay, then it's yeah, it's pretty obvious. Yeah, thank you. So
No.
now,
We've got a question in the Whiteboard voice channel.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned a method to clean the spectra in third or fourth slide. How did you do that? Okay. Are we talking about from here? Like, how are we going from here to? Three slides off. Okay. So median filter. So it's a median filter. Okay. So it's essentially finding the median between 2 points and passing a line through it. So any filter could have been used, but I have gone for the simplest one. So like we could have used Savitzky-Golay too, but I'm not very familiar with that, so I stick with the simplest one, 1D median filter. It's about it's about reducing the noise. So we want to ignore all these points. Are you getting me? Yeah. Any more doubt, guys? Okay, so we don't have any more doubts, so I'll close the stream now.
No, it looks like that's it. Thank you very much for giving the talk. That was really good.
yeah, it's
Very nicely
agree.
presented.
Thanks, guys. I'm glad you enjoyed. So
You're welcome, bro.